Welcome back to Inspired Inc., the CWS podcast, a show where we promote indie comic creators and become inspired by what they create and their journey of creating it. I'm your host, Brandon Bloxdorf, and today on the show we have Joe Ellis, the creator of Trifecta, and we talk about the importance and value of creating characters that resonate with your audience, how the indie comic book community is a valuable asset, and why it's always important to dream big. All this and so much more in today's Inspired Inc. You were saying just now that you got into stuff because of like Spider-Man and Batman.
Yes.
And those were my earliest. The Michael Keaton one was also my gateway into like comic book love and admiration. Like there's something about the 1989 like Michael Keaton Batman that just like it just especially as like a kid growing up seeing that like it just meant so much and it was so powerful. And even when you watch it now compared to other like Batman incarnations and movies, like I love the Batman, it's one of my tops, but it's crazy how like that one just was the most influential thing to like hit us in general. It changed the landscape.
It did. I mean, for me, it was the first time because I watched the old TV show with
Yeah.
Adam West and all that, but it was the first time where I saw something that was like, man, this is like not goofy. Like I can show this to other people who don't read comic books or are not into that, and I can proudly show them this and go, this is what it could be. And now we fast forward to what Marvel and everything is doing, and it's like that was kind of to me that was kind of the part where it was like there's potential here,
Yeah.
you know. Yeah. So, and
I mean,
it's been nonstop ever since.
that's the cool part too, is finding, you find the superhero stuff that doesn't feel like what you're saying goofy. You know what I mean? Like, and naming, stuff like Indiana Jones was heavily influential on you as well.
Yes.
And you look at Indiana Jones, I mean, there's goofy, funny, humorous parts, you know what I mean? But there's nothing like goofy about Indiana Jones. He's like a badass, like he's doing cool stuff, he's going on adventures. And so he was like loved and, by audiences across the world. Whereas like the superhero stuff, it was always just like silly, like gags, and you couldn't really. There was no like big Indiana Jones like statement that was out there for audiences, and so I think it's taken us, years to like, change the flavor, the taste in people's mouth about comics for not being a kids thing, for not being just like a goofy little spin-off full of jokes and
Mhm.
something
Yeah.
full of passion and love and lessons and can really cross the boundaries across things. I mean, even in the James Bond aspect where you're naming as an influence, like I think,
Mhm.
Bond is one of those characters where it's just, he's evolved over the generations. And I love seeing that evolution. And, for comics for a while, it felt like stuff was stagnant in the, live action medium essence of it. Or it was just animated shows for kids kind of until the 1992 Batman.
Yeah.
So what like the influences you're able to pull from, it's great that you're a part of that wave that like kind of changed that flavor of everything too. Like you really got to experience the corniness of it from the 66 Batman to finding something serious that you could really be like, oh, now I could show other people, why this means so much to me, why it connects and why it resonates. Why do some of these characters resonate so much for you enough to influence you to like make your own comics and your own series?
Some of them are done so well. And it's just like, wow. Like, this is literally like if you read comics and you go and you watch like Avengers Infinity War,
Hmm.
like, that's a comic book on the big screen. Like, I'm
Yeah.
literally, like, when I was watching that the first time, I'm like, wow, I feel like I'm a kid again reading a comic book, but it's on the big screen and it looks great. The CG looks great. The acting is great. It's been taken seriously. Of course, you want to have a little bit of comedy. I feel like you should have some light jokes. You don't want to take yourself too seriously,
Yeah.
but I'm more of in favor of having an action adventure sprinkled with comedy in there, as opposed to a comedy with action and adventure sprinkled. I'd rather have the action adventure be in the forefront, and then you sprinkle in the comedy. And I think that's a really good, for me personally, that's a very good mixture. Unless you're dealing with someone like a Deadpool who's more of a comedic figure, then of course, then you want to add more of the comedy elements because it works for that character. But for someone, like a Batman or something like that, who's more serious, or like a Punisher, you got to lean more on the hardcore side and less on the comedy side. But you can still sprinkle in those little aspects, because I think no one is one thing. Like,
True.
everyone has different aspects. When someone wakes up in the morning, they're not always a badass. Like, they have sides of them where sometimes they're mean, sometimes they're nice, sometimes they feel a certain way about this, sometimes they smile. So I feel like, if you can bring that onto the big screen, and it's not just a one-dimensional character, like I'm the bad guy and I'm going to kill everybody. When you have like a character, it's like, okay, I see where he's coming from. He loves his daughter or whatever the character is, but he also wants to get revenge or whatever that is. When you start seeing that on the big screen, I thought Marvel did a good job of doing that. It's like it brings in fans that don't even like superhero movies, but they come in because it's like, whoa, these characters are crazy. Like, who doesn't want to follow Tony Stark?
Right.
What a great character. So they've done a very good job of doing that, and it inspired me. I would love one day to see Trifecta on the big screen, but at some point you got to start off with the story. And my big focus, because you can have as many explosions, you can have a ton of explosions and superpowers and people shooting lasers out their eyes. But if you don't care about the characters, um, it's just, you forget about it as soon as you put it down. It's like, oh well, that's
Right.
another comic book. Let me throw it in the stash. Let me go read the next one. But so what I'm trying to do is just make sure these characters stand out. They all have arcs, and they all have good banter with each other. And I think that's what separates Trifecta from a lot of things, is that when you read this story, you're going to really understand these different characters.
I love that. And it sounds like you're very involved in the craft of, making comics, storytelling, the craft of storytelling. You know what I mean? And I mean, that's one of the most pivotal things if you want to be a creator is like, it's a good thing to, understand, writing in general, having artistic talent and everything, but storytelling in itself, finding something that's gripping, something that could capture an audience and like resonate with them. And once you resonate with a character, that's when you become a fan because then you see yourselves in them. You see those moments, those even good and bad moments, and you see those decisions being made. And it's like what you're saying, it kind of, having those characters that feel more real, where not every day is perfect. Not all of us are happy 100% of the time. Not
Mhm.
all of us are angry and mad 100% of the time. So taking that approach and utilizing it and shaping with, with these characters with that approach, it means that you have something that's diverse and that you're opening up to the audience. And I'm sure there's a lot of truth within that too. I know when I write characters, it doesn't matter if it's a good or good person or bad person. There's a hint of myself in there. There's a hint of truth that I'm trying to face.
Yes.
And you have to, even your worst characters, you have to like agree with them just a bit because that's part of you, or else it's just not fully there. You're gonna sense and feel that missing component. But the more open you are, like the way you are in Trifecta, I think that's what's so gripping about it. Big reason why we wanted to have you on the show in general was like just the way you're putting it all together, shaping this world and adding all these exciting elements. And you walk away from the book and you're like, I'm so curious about the next issue. Like I'm genuinely like I can't wait to read the next one that you put out, and I can't wait to see the full series, put together. So I really admire your admiration for craft. I mean, that's something I geek out on like crazy. What got you to really notice like craft? Like what was it that when did that light go off in your head? When you're like, this is what I need to do in my writing. Like what was the story or what was the character or movie that really just was like, oh, I get it now. I get why I love this so much.
Oh man, there's been a lot of different movies and comic books. I would say, I don't know if you've ever seen one of the biggest, and it's not really a comic book movie, but have you ever seen Blow
Oh yeah. Johnny Depp and
with Johnny Depp?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Man, if you watch, man, talk about a character study. Like, it goes through this guy's life, how he just becomes this criminal. He can't let it go. His parents are begging him to stop. He treats his wife bad. But it's like I cannot look away from that movie because the character is just so intriguing.
Hmm.
And I felt that way with Iron Man. The first time I saw the first Iron Man, it's like, this isn't just some superhero guy running around like I got to save the world. this guy's really got to understand, like, whoa, I'm selling weapons here that's hurting other people. And, he was arrogant and he's rich. And it's like he really had to make a journey to realize that it's not all about me.
Hmm.
And the Dark Knight and the whole Nolan trilogy.
Yeah.
I don't think you have a Dark Knight without Batman Begins, because that really shows his journey of where he started to that point where he meets the Joker. I think that first movie is so pivotal because you really find out what Bruce is about. You
Yes.
know, I
Yeah.
really and I was really it was spectacular that you didn't even see him as Batman until like an hour into the movie. They
It's true.
really
Yeah.
took some time to lay him out so you can really understand what is this dude doing in a mask, running around at night just like a bat. You understand it. And that's the way I wanted to approach these characters. I have basically three characters. One is like a treasure hunter, like an archaeologist type guy. You find out real quick what his motivation is. It's money. He's greedy. He's
Hmm.
he's, he's got he's being paid to find this artifact, and he doesn't really care. Everyone's trying to tell him this thing is dangerous. He doesn't care. He wants his money, and that's what he's about. And then we have a lady by the name of Layla, and she's from the island where he gets the mask from, and she knows about the legend of this mask, and she knows what's going to happen if the wrong people get a hold of it. And her arc is basically she's kind of a hero or like a guardian of the island, and she's trying to convince this guy, hey, I know you want this money, but it's more important. This mask is more important than money. And they go head to head. And then you find out another guy comes in, which is my James Bond influence, which is Agent All Star.
Yeah.
And he wants the mask because it's a weapon of mass destruction. And the CIA has given him the mission of bringing it in because it could be used to destroy the world. So you have three different, and they're all good people.
Hmm.
All three of them are great people, but they just have different agendas. So they have to figure out, they're fighting amongst each other, and they got to figure out how they're going to coexist or what they're going to do with this math, because they're good people, but they all want to, they all have a goal they want to meet. And it was very important for me to flush out those characters so that you understand their motivations and you understand why this guy is greedy. You understand why this guy's in the CIA and what he's trying to do, and you understand why Layla is so passionate about trying to save the mask, because it's also going to save her people and save her island.
And that's the cool part is that we I read a lot. I read a lot of indie comics. I read a lot of comics in general. It's what I do in general. I've been a comic book fan, most of my life. And the stories that are, it's like what you're saying. When all the explosions and all that type of stuff, like those are fun. But you could put it down, and then you could be like, oh yeah, I forgot about this. Oh, it took me. Oh, that's right. It took me less than 5 minutes to read, and there wasn't much to reflect on. But when you're reading Trifecta and you're analyzing all this stuff, not only was I noticing like key influences and things that like were part of the like just things I enjoy, adventure. I'm a big adventure fan, and even when I choose video games and everything, stuff like Uncharted and like RPGs are always like what I go for, because of that sense of like I want to go like somewhere different. I want to go like on a long adventure. It's what you grew. I feel like a certain generation of us or a certain era of us like grew up wanting to go out there and have that adventure, like just go see the unknown, go discover stuff, really be put to the challenge. And we grew up with things, Indiana Jones, the Goonies, all those type of things were just so much like they're just fun. And that's what comics should be to like a large extent, is fun storytelling. And so you add that element in, and then you add this James Bond element in, and it's just like, man, you're capturing all the cool stuff. And what's fun is that this playground you've created for yourself, it doesn't seem like something you'll get bored or tired of. And there's so much more to explore within these characters and their realms. Was that also very intentional? I mean, in the sense of like you wanted to make a world you could build out even more, and it's also something you could never tire of as well.
Absolutely. I wish I could put out more. I have a ton of scripts. I mean,
All of
there's
us.
these characters you haven't even met yet. I have this whole kind of world, but I got to do. You got to crawl before you walk.
Right.
So I'm starting off and just doing what I can as I do it, and I'm releasing it as I can. But yeah, my goal is first just to get through the 6 issues, And if it works out properly, I want to expand. Like I said, there's characters you haven't seen. Also, I've written solo stories for these characters. Agent All Star goes on his own CIA adventure, and we find out how he gets his powers. Uh, I don't want to give any spoilers, but Layla has to do some things with her island, and then and Donovan Chase, my global, my main archaeologist character, he goes off on another adventure for another artifact. And these characters, they do their own thing, and then they come together when needed. But they're not always together. They go and they have their own lives and everything. So I'm hoping that if things work out, I can keep expanding the universe.
That's right. I feel like that's like the indie comic creators, like the bane of being an indie comic creator is that we have so much in our hands and we want to do so much. But like, I guess when you're with like a major publisher and you're known and like you're Scott Snyder, you could do every idea you want and you could dish out everything on a monthly basis. But just having that drive and understanding as well of like what you were saying, baby steps, you start small. I started with a 4-page story and then it turned into a 12-page story and then it turned into a 24-page comic and then turning into 6 issues. Like there's also like no rush. I feel like you're working on your speed at your capability and that's what you're able to produce and do. Like that is more than most people can say. Some people just have an idea and they just hold on to that idea and they say, I'm going to do this idea, I'm going to do this idea, but never really take action on it. But
Yeah.
like taking action, but also understanding like, hey, I have to have patience, like with myself, with the universe, like everything that goes along with this. It's a hard, rocky road. But does that patience ever like kind of test you a little bit? Do you ever feel like things need to move faster, or are you really happy and content with like the speed of how books have been coming out lately?
Oh yeah, you always get impatient. At least I do.
Yeah.
There's always times where it's like, man, I should have had this book out earlier, or
Mhm.
man, you know what? Tonight, instead of going to the movies, I probably should have worked on my script. Or you get that as a creator, but or like you're happy for everyone that gets success. But sometimes like you'll look at something and go, man, I wish I was in that position right now. I wish I was releasing this or doing this. And it's just like it's just human nature. But
Mhm.
everyone has their own journey. And as creators, we have to support each other. I can't tell you how much support I get from other creators, and I give that support back as well because we have to support each other. Because at the end of the day, it's expensive, and we're all putting our talents on the line. It's hard to put your stuff out there
Yeah.
because you don't know, people might just crap on it and oh, this is terrible, or you might put out something and you buy one person might buy it, and you're sitting in a room full of 100 books and you can't sell them, and there's so many things as a writer you have to worry about. But it's like you got to get it out. It's like you
Yep.
got to get it out because if you don't, you go crazy.
Yep.
So my thing was I wrote it and then I kind of just saved up my money, and then this great thing called Kickstarter. Now we can do that to help. And I would like to just to answer your question. Yes, I do get frustrated as far as the amount of books I can put out at one time, but I'm kind of a one man band right now, so I just want to grow it, and hopefully, maybe next year I'll have 2 or 3 employees, and just kind of going from there. Maybe after a while we can put out a couple books a year. That's the goal.
Yeah, and that's the hard part. You know what I mean? It's hard not to compare yourself to others.
Yeah,
It's hard not to look at what everyone else is doing, and sometimes appearances are deceiving as well. You don't realize that someone's been in the industry for 10, 15 years,
exactly.
and
Yeah,
then you're kind of like, oh, I've only been doing this for X amount of time. I'm actually not doing that bad right now. But it's that illusion of like everything in the universe happening at once. You go to a con. I mean, my first couple conventions, I only had the one punk anthology. It wasn't even my own full title yet. And
mhm.
even now, even with, I run Apollo City Comics and, we have mostly anthologies. And now I finally have like my 12, 16-page ash can of my series. Issue one's going to come out next year. And it's one of those things I was like, I was really aiming for 2024. I really wanted it to be out. I wanted it to be in my hands, but maybe it's the universe saying it's a good thing it's not ready yet. There's a reason why it's not out yet. We're working on it. It's happening. As long as you don't give up on that goal and that vision and that dream, it's going to happen. It's going to be produced. and everyone will be excited for it. You were saying you had a lot of support from the comic book community as well. Like, where did you start formulating those relationships? How did you actually get into the indie comic book community and start meeting all these other creators?
Social media mainly.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Um, you start, you know, following other creators and you see their Kickstarters and you try to support theirs and they support yours, or there's a couple guys I exchange DMs with, like, hey, what do you think about this? And they'll give their opinion because I respect people who've been doing this for a long time. I respect people who've got multiple books out. So sometimes I'll reach out, hey man, what's your advice on this? How do you they'll give you some advice, and I just always want to support them because everyone that I've ever asked for advice or asked something, they've always been very generous of their time. So I also want to give that back into the universe because again, I know how difficult it is, and it's real easy. You could just, I don't have time for that, man. I don't, So even with artists, I get a lot of DMs from artists. Hey, do you need? I'm looking for work, and I don't produce that many books, so I can't have all these artists, but I try to get back to every artist. And even at the time, hey, I see your portfolio. If when the time comes, I'll contact you, but I try not to ignore people's DMs, and I try to also give compliments. Like there's nothing there's hitting the like button and giving a compliment, a comment or whatever, it's free.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking always support people, and that will come back to you in the universe.
100%. That's probably the most rewarding thing about like doing what I do in the show is like you interact with so many creators and just, a simple like, a comment, just some words of encouragement. I think all of us, every creator, myself included, doesn't matter who it is, those words of encouragement go so far.
Yeah,
It could be the smallest compliment ever. Maybe it was even like half a thought, but you read that, you hear it, and you're just like, that gives you a bolster. And I think, outside of the creator realm, people don't realize what that means to us.
yeah,
Just being kind to one another and encouraging will go so much further than any other attitude. Like, I don't see a reason to be mean to other people. I don't see a reason to think of people as competition. I think, we all understand how hard it is to make a book. And I think
yeah.
we all know the amount of time and effort, and I'm sure me and Mark Bernal, the publisher of lesser known comics, we talk all the time, and our phone calls at the beginning of the week are always like, "So we're giving up this week, right? Like we're done, like we're quitting, like we're over it." And then you talk for 5 minutes, and then you're like, "Ah, this is the coolest thing in the world. How could I ever stop?"
You
Um,
can't stop.
yeah,
You can't.
it's in our blood. I mean, growing up with Spider Man and Batman and seeing all this stuff, like it was motivational then.
Yeah.
And I'm still a big Marvel DC fan. I still read a whole lot, but then switching over to like the indie creation process, now it's no longer the characters that are my heroes. It's all these creators that have become my heroes. They've all taught me a lot. They've all inspired me. And it's crazy how it switched from the creation to the creator now is what carries us on and pushes us forward a whole lot more.
Yeah, I think also I think it's an age thing because
Hmm.
when you're a kid, you don't really know what goes in behind making stuff. It's just you just see the cool character. But as you become an adult and you start making this stuff, whether it's a comic book, a movie, a TV show, whatever, and you know what goes behind making this stuff, you start realizing, man, this creator is awesome. Like, wow, like I know how hard that was to make that book, and man, like let me give you your flowers. Like
Yeah.
I know what that took. So I think especially when you start creating, you realize you really start realizing what goes into these things. So
What's like one thing that always keeps you going to make comics? It doesn't matter about the speed or the quality or anything, but what is like I'm sure all of us felt like giving up at some point or even just pausing for a minute, but what just keeps you, always looking for pushing out your books and putting them on various websites? I think that's one of the most diverse lists I've heard. I mean, you could even list right now where you could find all of your books, and you have them across platforms like crazy. Like, what keeps your drive to keep pushing the book and keep you creating all of this no matter the investment?
well, one, definitely just my love for comic books. Two, I love doing signings. I love meeting people. That's like my out of all the things, of course, I love. when you get a printed book for the first time, and your own book, and you crack it open, and you're like, wow, I was part of this. But I love meeting people because they'll tell you, hey man, I got this idea that I was thinking, and you can motivate people like, man, do that. And so I give people resources, and hey, you heard of Comix Wellspring, man? That's what you need to get. Like you help people out, and you develop these relationships. And I'm a people's person, so I definitely love that. And it's just basically just my love for comics. I don't never want to be at a point where I look back on my life and go, man, why didn't I do that? Like, why? I don't care if I'm 80 years old, 90 years old. Hopefully I live that long. But I never want to look back and like have a drawer or, full of scripts, or I look at a laptop and I got all these scripts saved, and I'm like, man, why didn't I put that out in the world? I don't want to
Honestly.
have that regret. So I'd rather put a million things out and no one buys it than just to let it sit in a drawer somewhere, because I feel you got to get it out and give people a chance to like it. But art is subjective. Some people are going to like it, some people aren't. But you know, I've read a lot of indie comics. Every time I go to Comic Cons, I try to support people and buy their stuff. Man, there's some good stuff out there.
Yeah.
Holy
Yeah.
crap, there's some good stuff. And it's
Hmm.
like, when you read some stuff and it's like, I'm looking for the DC or Marvel emblem. I'm like, this gotta be DC. Like, what is this? And it's like, it's an independent guy, like, oh man, no, I made that. And it's like, wow, like there was so much untouched talent out there. And I understand the big publishers, you can only have so many people,
Yeah.
but there are a lot of people. There if they want to search for the next big writers, they're all over the place. There's so many great indie, like very talented indie writers and artists out there.
I feel really like indie comics are one of the truest, purest forms of art. I mean, when you make an independent comic, you're not bound to restrictions of like an editorial team or rules and like character stuff, and you're able to like express everything you want to express through the words of the comic and scripting, and then you add the art to it. And again, even if there is an editorial team, it's nothing like I don't want to say, I hate to use the word gatekeeping, but like the strictness of like Marvel, DC, and like the other big publishers. So when you buy an indie comic, you are getting someone's like clearest idea that they could possibly put onto the page. And it may not be, perfect in the sense of like house style and all that type of stuff, and story structure to a T, and this happens on page X, and then the next inciting incidents on page X, and that deep into it. But it's like it's just pure organic attempts to making storytelling and art. And so many of us, discover more about ourselves. We discover and study storytelling like crazy. And I feel like indie comics blow a lot of the big two comics out of the water, just because of that, like really just be taking a handful of people, or sometimes even one person, just manning it all, just doing all the work on their own. And you get this piece of art, and you're just like, how much more pure can this possibly be? It's like literally just one person's entire, you know, efforts into something. And I love that. I admire it so much more because you're taking a risk when you're making a comic. You're like you said, it's hard to put your art out there. It's hard to like let people, allowing people to check it out, and you're making yourself so vulnerable to open-ended criticism, to open-ended compliments. It could go either way, and it's up to you to like how you process all that, like you're saying, sometimes you sell one comic, sometimes you sell like a dozen at a convention. But not letting that get to you, and knowing why you do what you do and pursuing that to like the nth degree, that's what's going to keep you going, and just showing up every day and putting your effort in. And I love hearing that from you, especially because I'm a slow burn comic book creator myself. Like I have a couple shorts out, and I have almost a full issue out at this point. I've made anthologies, done published a whole lot, but out of my own personal work, it's been like a very slow burn. And as much as I want more work out, it's like, man, this is daunting sometimes, and I want to stop, but it's because of the community that we get to carry on. Ready to make a splash at your next convention? Comics Wellspring has got you covered with 3 amazing deals. Spend $150 and snag 30% off retractable banners and tablecloths. or 20% off flyers and posters. If you buy one banner, you could grab a second for 35% off. And for a complete booth makeover, buy one tablecloth and get another for 35% off. These eye catching deals will make your booth pop and your comics shine. Click the link on the screen now to elevate your convention game. But back to our conversation with Joe Ellis. How do you enjoy crowdfunding? What's your Kickstarter approach? How do you feel like your success has been on there, and why do you choose crowdfunding on Kickstarter versus other platforms?
Well, oh my God, crowdfunding is like the bane of my existence. I need to
Yeah.
be on meds when I do crowdfunding.
I
I'm
feel
sure I'm
you.
like a lot of people. I check it every day, every hour.
It's refreshing. It's been 3 minutes. Let me see if I got one more.
And it's like, wow. And a lot of times, like it starts off hot, and then it'll like nothing, and it'll be like nothing, and then So, but for me, I my first one I did Indiegogo,
Mhm.
and that was my first one, and I felt like that was better for me because at that time it was just issue one. No one knew what Trifecta was at all. So at least with Indiegogo, you could keep the money even if you don't make your goal. So I
Mhm.
thought that was the best way to approach it since I didn't have any type of name recognition. So the second one, I went to Kickstarter because at least I had a following. I started to get a following. So luckily, everyone showed up for me on Kickstarter. Appreciate everyone that helped me out on that one. Um, but again, Kickstarter, it's a great resource. You can get fans. You see who's supporting you. You get a chance to offer some cool stuff for the fans who are reading your book. You can offer little things to entice them, and
Mhm.
it's great because not only is it to help support your comic, but it helps to build a fan base. But again, you for me, it's stressful. That month or wherever long it's going to be, man. That's a stressful month because it's like
Mhm.
you don't want to put out too much. Like you want to put out on social media, hey, my Kickstarter, but you don't want to put out too much. And it's like just like this little balance you got to do. And it's like, hey, reminder, if you got a time, can you? So the best advice I ever got for Kickstarter was someone told me one time, Joe, they're not investing in your book, they're investing in you. Because most of these people probably have not read your book, but they might like you as a person. And if they see that you're passionate and they see that what you're doing, they'll invest in you as a person. And that was the best advice I ever gave because I mean that I was ever given because I think it's true. Until once you're big and people know your work and oh yeah, I did Deadpool 52 and I did it, then it's like, oh, I know this guy. Yeah, let me go ahead. Those Kickstarters that get like 50,000,
Yeah.
those things, because now you have like a very good following.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, I feel like people will follow you if they see that you're passionate and they see that you have a goal in mind. They'll support you as the person, and they'll go ahead and they'll contribute a couple bucks on it, and that seems to be a winning strategy for me.
That is insanely true, honestly. Because when it comes down to it, I think a lot of our supporters are also creators as well.
Hmm.
People that back our books and they understand like the respect, the attempt and the efforts, and just being able to help another creator in some way is always rewarding. And being able to like give back in some essence, it could have maybe you met someone at a con and they're just kind of like, oh, this was a great person, great interaction. I can't wait to see them grow more. So we're all kind of encouraging one another to kind of keep pursuing this and not give up the dream. But
Yes.
yeah, you're totally right. My first book, I was terrified about starting the Kickstarter. We got real lucky. And of course, Apollo had been a podcast for, since 2018. And so my first book was in 2023, the punk anthology right up here. Where there it is. And we did pretty well. It was a $5,000. It was like the most I've made on a Kickstarter in general since that one. But it was like I had so many of like friends and people that knew how bad I wanted to do this, and they showed up for me. And that kind of blew my mind. And there's, to a certain extent, you're like, I hope everyone, reads the comic and checks it out. But even if it's just sitting on your to be read pile for the next year or two, like just having that support and that encouragement, that will make sure I keep on doing this. And
Yes.
people are letting you know, like, don't give up the dream. Like, all of us have a reading pile, this high, it's to the sky practically. So it's hard to like always remember that too. Like not everyone's going to read your book right away, but once they do, once they get to that stack in their reading pile, they're going to be really happy and excited. And that's where the patience comes in too, like what you're saying. It could be years till someone discovers issue one a trifecta for the first time, but
Yeah.
that might impact them and they might fall in love with the whole series. Which is why we got to keep on going because if someone discovers trifecta in 2 years, they're gonna want to know about issue two, three, four, five, six, and want to, what else is coming out of it. And then they'll be super hyped to be like, oh, this creator never gave up. They never stopped. Like there is more to this universe. And now they're more hyped to find you. And it's wild how that circle kind of comes around from beginning to like now we're in the stage of like we're not really beginning anymore, but now we're encouraging others to never give up no matter what.
It's a circle. It's like you got to give back. It's like it's
Yep.
just a circle. Yeah.
I mean, and cons, like, how do you approach conventions? You're on the West Coast, I believe, actually, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm in Long Beach, California.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. How do you handle like tabling and cons? What's the environment like? I've only tabled once or twice on the West Coast. I got real fortunate and I got to do San Diego one year. But I haven't really wandered over there too much. What's your experience with cons and your overall feeling about them?
First con, like the first one, I was scared to death. You
Yeah.
know, because when you first start, well, at least me, when I first, you're scared, man. Like at least I was. I didn't, meeting people walking up to you, and it was just like, oh my god, I don't know if I can do this. But then once I did my first one, it's like this is awesome because everyone is nice.
Hmm.
And everyone wants to discuss comics. Everyone that walks up to you wants to discuss. They either want to discuss comics, or they want to discuss movies, or they want to discuss, ideas that they have.
Hmm.
And it's all. I've always had a great interaction. So for me now, I look forward to cons when I can go. I look forward to them. And also, you get to meet the other people at the other tables, and it's like you hear their stories. And it's like, yeah, I did that happened to me, a few months ago, and you start exchanging tips and secrets. And oh man, you need to go here and talk to this guy. He'll help you out with that. And overall, cons are great. And at the end of the day, you can put your stuff on the internet all over the place.
Yeah.
But that face to face interaction will make someone a fan for life, I think, because they get that face to face interaction and they remember you, they remember your face, they remember your personality, they remember the conversation. Because I can look at, a bunch of pictures of comic books, but if I met that author or that writer or that artist, it really sticks out in your head. Like, oh yeah, I remember that dude. I remember at Comic Con. Remember he signed my book and he was talking about this and that. So I think it's really important. I've also done some signings at other places, Barnes and Noble and stuff, and you get these people who don't even read comic books, and you can kind of like, hey, come on over here. I know you don't read comics, but let me just tell you what it's about. And they end up buying the comic. And I've had people like message me on Instagram or whatever. Man, I don't read comics, but this is cool. Like, hey man, well, I can't wait to see this on Netflix. Like, and so like you can even get people to get into comics. But I think it all starts with that face to face interaction. And I personally believe that as a writer, I'm going to go to many signings and Comic Cons as I can to meet as many people as I can.
Yeah, it's honestly like the best way, that human interaction. I mean, cons are a grind no matter what, but that's what
Yeah,
keeps us going. The good
yeah,
energy from the crowd, the good energy of people wanting to discuss comics and be interested, even if you have to talk them into being interested a little bit. But the fact that they took their time to hear you out, and
yes,
you're showing up, you're there, you're ready to. It's a business. When you're tabling, you're a pop up shop. It's a business. You're trying to move your product, you're trying to like show people what you've made. um and it's also one of those things, it's like the most vulnerable you'll be as a creator too. Interviews like this, wonderful, amazing, but like when you're in person talking to someone about like your book and it's in your hands and you get to hand it to them and be like, just flip through it, just check it out, it involves this and this, and you see them light up. It's kind of like a magical thing, and I feel like that's something that keeps us going as creators too, is like, oh my gosh, like someone other than me is enjoying this thing I made, like this idea I've been working tirelessly on. And then all those long nights, all those days, all those frustrations, or, those back and forth emails with whoever, all of that stuff that goes with comic book making, all of a sudden is just worth it. Like you
Yep.
just need that person to be, just somewhat interested. And then they walk away with your book and you're just like, that's insane. Like somebody is owning something that I made. And I think that's a beautiful moment right there. You get to share, like, just with, I mean, it's something all of us, potentially get to experience as creators, but it is fuel for us. And I think during our hardest times, sometimes just thinking back to those fun interactions are like, wow, I can't believe that person was so hyped about my stuff. And it kind of like, it trips you out a little bit, I feel. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like, wow, like this person is reading my stuff, you know.
It's on
Because
their
when you
bookshelf
read
next to
that stuff,
Spider-Man and Batman, like,
yeah, I was about to say, yeah, because you think like that's other people doing that stuff, that's other people doing that stuff. And when it's actually you, it's like, wow, this is crazy.
yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's just very gratifying.
Mhm. And it
Yeah.
all comes, and I could tell right away, like your attitude, and I'm sure your attitude, like here, is the same way you treat every person that walks up to your table. Having a good attitude when you're tabling means the world. Being attentive to your people walking up, being attentive to your environment, being welcoming when people come and ask you questions. I think that's one of the best things ever because that can an impression on someone means so much. And when you meet a creator, it could be your favorite creator in the world. And if they just like, they're jerks, they're rude, they're dismissive, they're short, they're kind of like want nothing. They're just like, yeah, get the book and you should know about it. Like
Yeah.
that's yeah, you're just like, why do I even want to why do I want to check it out? You don't even seem excited about it. But when you meet creators like you that are just full of like just passion, and that's when it clicks. That's when you're like, oh, okay, if you're so hyped about this, this is like going to encourage me to like really want to see what you've poured yourself into. And then they're going to come back for more. You're planting seeds. Every positive interaction is a seed planted. Even if they don't buy something that day, if they follow you on Instagram the next day or the next con, they're like, you were here last year. I need to get the issue I didn't grab, or I need to get issue 2, or hey, when is issue 3 and 4 coming out? Like I've been really waiting for it. That's when you're like, okay, I need to get to work. Like I'm excited. Like these people are wanting to come in and ask for this series.
Well, my thing is, if you're taking your time to come and talk to me, time and money, man. You're taking your time out of your day to come talk to Joe Ellis, who you don't know from squat, and you're willing to spend not only your time but also your money on something that I've done. I feel like I want to give you my 100% attention because you don't need to do that. You can
Yeah.
easily walk by me and say, "No, I'm good." You gotta, you just have to respect your fans. And even if someone doesn't buy a book, you still have to respect that person. Hey, maybe I get you on the next one. Hey, here, just take my card, or take this bookmark. My
Mhm.
QR code's on there. Maybe you don't like this one. Maybe I get you on the next series, or maybe I get you on the next issue. And people, they take it. Who knows? Maybe they throw it away. Maybe they don't. Maybe they do follow up. But I feel like you have to respect people who come up to you because time and money is very, you don't get time back at all.
Right.
And for someone, to spend their hard earned money on a book, that is not a big publisher or they don't know anything about it, for them to do that, I think, that's just out of this world. So I always want to give everybody their respect, and I always try to take time to take a picture if they want to take a picture, or if they just want to talk, even if they just want to talk about cartoons. I've had people just like, hey man, we spent like 20 minutes talking about a Saturday morning cartoon, but it's like you got to give people respect because they're giving you their time and money. So you need to give them that same energy back.
Dude, that's completely true. You know what I mean? And especially in this economy, you know what I mean? It's one of those things where, spending money on pleasantries and extra stuff and, things to just like, enjoy outside of the hustle of the day job and the hustle of life in general and all the chaos going around everywhere.
Mhm.
Like, having someone spend money on your product, on what you've worked on, it's thank you. You know what I mean? You're supporting us. You're telling us, you're kind of giving us like, um like I hate to use the word permission, but you're pretty much like acknowledging like what you're doing is good. Like, I'm going to give you this money so you could keep on doing it. Keep this book in print, keep making comics, keep making art. And those are the best supporters you could possibly have. People that buy indie comics, I feel, are the people that truly love comics. They're the ones that are, yeah, I'm sure they're buying their Marvel and DC and everything, but if they're spending their time on an indie book, like, you really do love comics, or you're going out there for the art and the craft of comic books, not just, there's a million reasons to spend money on stuff, but like indie
Yeah,
books are just mean something special when you see them on a shelf for sure.
I agree. And it took me a while to understand that. But once you pick up that indie book and you start meeting people and stuff, it's like, wow, man, I got to support these people. Like,
Yeah.
you got to support people, even with filmmakers, everything. You start seeing the process of making these films and stuff. It's like, let me support this guy. This guy went through hell to make this off a shoestring budget. So yeah, definitely over the last couple of years, I've gained a huge respect for people who do things independently.
Yeah, it is because, I'm sure you have a day job. I mean, this is probably something you do on the side and everything. A lot of us, do the day job, and then at night we're just like, well, I got to grind. And, if this is going to happen, I got to find the time between, family, spouse, or, kids, or whatever life thing your situation is. Like, this is bonus. We're not, I feel like artists and creators are people that aren't like a typical, if you're a doctor, you go to work, you do your shift, you come home, that's it. You're a lawyer, you're just doing that. Like, you're not having to repeat like a musician would or an artist would be like, okay, I learned everything and now I got to go practice that thing for the next 10 hours. And then I'm going to go back and I'm just going to repeat this process forever. Like, it's not even like okay, cool, I got my degree, I'm going to go get this gig now. It's like,
Yeah.
no, it is the grind for life practically that we're asking for essentially.
And wanting it though. It's
Yeah.
like you want it.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It shows the drive behind it all. To be a creator, to do this, you have to have the drive. You have to have the right attitude and you have to have the right drive because it's exhausting, and it's expensive, like you said. Like, we're not spending our money on, side stuff. We're paying artists, we're, paying for printing, paying for banners, ways to elevate ourselves. Um, and it's wild, the concept of being a comic book creator. It's kind of, it shows how crazy we are, I feel, to be pursuing some of this type of stuff.
yeah, well, yeah, that's true. You know what? Every big thing you watch now started with one person. Started
Yeah.
with one idea. Somebody said, "Yo, I'm gonna make this superhero. I'm gonna make this story," and it builds and it builds and it builds. And you know, you never know if your story is gonna get to that point where someone wants to make a movie or about it. But everything starts small, and someone wrote a script somewhere or someone had an idea, and then you build on it. And that's what we do as creators. We build on it, and we just want to get it out to as many people as we can. And I'm happy if it just sits on someone's shelf. I'll be happy if it's in a movie theater one day. I'm happy if it's just I see it, an action figure. It's just I'm just happy when it's out. As long
Yeah.
as I put it out in the world, whatever the world does with it, they do with it.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, as a fan of film yourself, like, have you like had a dream casting for Trifecta at all? Have you gone into those exciting thoughts and being like, who's your dream cast for your book and whatnot?
Oh my God. I'm doing that right now on Instagram.
Oh, nice, yes, yeah,
I initially, back in the day when I first started, I kind of did one of who the characters were kind of inspired by.
mm,
But now I'm doing one of if the movie was made today, or if a live action TV show, and I put the pictures right next to the characters like a Glen Powell for my global. Um, Theo James, I don't know if you know who that is. There's
yeah,
another
yeah.
guy who would be a good global. I just put. I'm trying to remember who I did for Agent All Star. Oh my God, yeah. I can't remember his last name. The guy who played Black
Oh,
Manta
yeah,
in
yeah.
Aquaman, and the guy who played Hawkman in Black Adam as as Agent All Star. But yeah, I'm bad with names, but when it
Same,
comes to
yeah.
actors, what I do is when I see an actor, I remember their face and I remember their performance.
Hmm.
That's mainly what I remember, and I'm like, you know what? mental note. One day ever, one day if it ever happened, like I'm gonna remember that person, and that's what I've been doing, and I've actually been putting it on Instagram because I feel like you got to put it out in the universe.
That's right.
If you can keep it to yourself, it's just like the comic book. You can keep that idea to yourself, and I don't want nobody to read it because I don't know what. You got to put it out in the universe, and once it's out there, just let whatever happens gonna happen. So I figured, you know what? Let me put that out in the universe. Who knows? Maybe someone will see that and go, huh? Maybe. If not, it could be ignored and maybe not, but who cares? It's like it didn't cost me anything, and I felt like I'm putting it out in the universe, and we'll see what happens.
Does that also help you with like your writing process as well? Like just kind of thinking about some of these actors in these roles and like performing it when you're kind of playing, scenes out in your head and whatnot too?
I think that happens like subconsciously. I think
Hmm.
a lot of times, like you're writing a character and you might not even be thinking about it, but in your head, you're like, yeah, that dude from, the Scorpion King or whatever. And you're kind of writing it like that. For me, I got to give a shout out to my artist, Rock Elijah.
Hmm.
And when me and him first got together, I'm describing these characters to him. And he's the one that actually put the face to the paper, and he nailed it perfectly. And so, of course, when you're trying to describe these characters, you're going to give references of actors because that's just the easiest way. Kind of like this guy in this movie. So you always have that in the back of your mind. When the characters were made, it wasn't made for a specific character, but they were definitely made as inspiration. Indiana Jones was the inspiration for Global. 007 was the inspiration for Agent All Star. Xena Warrior Princess was the inspiration for Layla. Like there's always inspirations, but no one specific. But I'm sure in the back of my head, I'm always subconsciously thinking of somebody.
And how did you build that relationship with your artist? Where did this come about? I know that's probably one of the biggest struggles all of us writers have. It's like, we can't draw. We're not the great, or if we can draw, we're not that great. And so like, where did you find your artist and how did that whole thing fruition together?
So that he came. I met him on Facebook. There's some great Facebook comic book groups out there that match writers with artists. There's some great ones out there, and I just put up a post. Hey, I'm looking for an artist for this book, and he was one of the people that sent me his, a link to his portfolio. And as soon as I looked at it, I'm like, this is the dude. This is the dude. Like, I liked his art. I liked the way it looked. A lot of his art, it kind of looked like Attack on Titan,
Yeah.
that kind of style, like kind of anime, but he also had like some other elements to it. So I contacted him. He's in Venezuela.
Oh,
So I
nice.
was a little nervous because I'm like, I don't know, like, is this going to work out? Like, this is a different time zone. Does he speak English? Like, I don't know what this is going to be. And we started messaging back and forth. And basically, he said, "Hey, let me do the first character. I'm not even going to charge you for it." And he goes, "If you like tell me what you're looking for. If you like it, we'll keep moving. And if you don't like it, then all good." And me and him went back and forth, and he did that first character, and I'm like, "Man, you got it." And we started doing, we just started building. I started sending him the scripts, and it just kind of built from there. Like I couldn't imagine for Trifecta, I couldn't imagine working with a different artist because he's brought that book to life, especially the covers. Like that guy is awesome. Shout out to Raka in
Yeah.
Venezuela, and technology is just great because I never would have met that guy if it wasn't for Facebook and technology and social media. Never would have met that guy. He's in Venezuela, so to have for me and him to meet, and right now we're finishing up issue 3.
Hmm.
It's no problem. We're just messaging back and forth on Messenger, and he's sending me what he's got, and I'm giving him notes and everything, and it's like a flawless. Now that we're on issue 3, it's flawless. It's like we know each other now. He knows what I like, and I know what he likes, and it's just this perfect relationship that we have right now. And man, I'm so excited about issue 3. Like everything's just flowing. It's like we finally got it.
Love
We're
it.
there. Like we're there. So I'm loving it, man. It's a great process.
And that's the thing about like making comics too, is that you do your first attempt together. It's like a short story or single issue, and you're just like, okay, so I think this works. We're working together. We have a book out. This is good.
Yeah.
And then the second issue, you're just like, okay, we're getting a better flow. We're like understanding each
Mhm.
other's language more. We're getting the vibe. We can almost predict what we're gonna do. And I feel like once I get to that second issue spot, that's when I stop giving the artist nearly as many notes and feedback, and
Yep.
it's just fluid. And then once you're a bit more ahead of than me on like on your work. You already finished issue 3, but I feel like issue 3 is a sweet spot where you're just like, it's a partnership. Like you're there, you're making the book, like it's just, and it's like more exciting as the story unfolds and develops, and you're seeing it come to life even more. And it's hard to hold in that excitement, because you're just like, I need the world to see this, because now this is the greatest thing we've done together so far.
You know what? The best feeling, man, I'm telling you, the best feeling is because we're in a different time zone. So
Mhm.
sometimes I get messages from him while I'm asleep.
Yeah.
The best feeling is it feels like Christmas morning when I'm sleeping and I hear because he's the only one I talk to on Facebook Messenger. I don't talk to anyone else. So when I hear that tone, I'm like half asleep. It's like 6 a.m. or something, and I'm like wait, and I hear that tone. I'm like, because I know there's gonna be pictures coming, there's
Yep.
gonna be art coming, and it feels almost like a Christmas morning. Because I know when I open my phone or whatever, he's gonna have something for me to see. Man, there's no feeling. There's no better feeling than when I get a message from him.
Oh, 100%. Getting a page sent to you or artwork from an artist. I worked at a grocery store like part time on the side, and I was doing that before I did CWS and everything. And I would just be, just at work, just yeah, at work. You don't want to be there. You know what I mean? And just like trying to get through the day and everything. And all of a sudden, my phone goes off, and you see a piece of art, and you're just, nothing matters. Like you're just so hyped. You're like, my idea is here. Like, or somebody posts and tags you, your artist posts and tags, and it's like artwork you haven't seen, and you're just like, this is cool. I want to get back to work, like as in like working on comics, like, and that's like the best thing. It's so motivational seeing your artist being hyped and delivering, and it just keeps you fueled as a creator, being like, oh, it's not just about me anymore. It's not just my idea. It's not just my creation. Like I know they're excited the way I'm excited, and now we're a team. And there's more than just my desire and drive and want. Like I can't let my artist down. And now, and some of the artists I work with, like they're so good. I'm terrified when I start writing a script, because I'm like, this has to be good, because I know how good their art is, and so I need to like keep up with them, and I need to make something they're proud of as well. And it turns into like a, from something that's all about you, just trying to have an idea and get it out there, to be like, now it's us. Now we're demonstrating our work together, and without your artist, we're almost nothing without our artists. We are
Mhm.
we are just an idea without them, and they make it tangible for us. And then like we print it, and it's in our hands, and it's emotional. It's your baby, you know what I mean? Something that you've worked over and looked over, and been patiently waiting and waiting. And once you get that book delivered, you're just like, this was all worth it. This was all of it. Like I finally get to do what I've been dreaming of since I was a kid, and that's hold my own comic in my hand. And you can't beat that feeling.
It's like peanut butter and jelly, man. The artist and the writer, like I don't want a peanut butter sandwich. I don't want a jelly sandwich. So when you got a good peanut butter and jelly sandwich, man, that thing is hitting. And that's how I look at it, man. It's like, man, I'm blessed to have met him, and I'm blessed that we have a good working relationship, and we respect each other. And if I give him notes, he's receptive. And if he sees something that maybe he disagrees with, we have a good relationship back and forth. It's like it's not where we're arguing, or
Mhm.
it's very professional, and I just love that guy. So
I mean, that's key too, is being able to get to that point, or, right off the bat, just being like, oh, like feedback's not bad. Like giving notes isn't bad. It's one of those things where it's just like, oh, we just got to align a little bit more on the vision here.
yeah,
And there's a lot of times, artists will send me pages, and they're different from how I paneled them out, or what I was like, thinking or originally visioned in my head. And like 9 times out of 10, it's better than what I put down. And
yep,
you're just like, visually, this works so much better. Like thank you for just having, giving your artist that freedom to do that too. Some scripts are really tight in it, and some writers are like, no, it has to be exactly how it is. But I love giving the artist like freedom to be like, hey, this is my interpretation, this is my script, but like take it, interpret it how you can. And if you got to arrange stuff, or if you feel like something's going to pace out better, like do
Do
it,
it.
you know? You got to trust, and you got to trust each other for that. And once you've built that, it's phenomenal what will come out. And I mean, Trifecta is a perfect example of that as well. Because, dude, those books are they're so cool. I also, you know, before we sign off, we're getting close to the hour mark here. You know, you have your books listed everywhere, and I love that. I love how available your books are. How did you go about distribution, and what was your plan behind distribution at that point?
Man, I'm just trying to get it every platform. Like anyone that'll accept it, I have it in some local comic book stores here in Los Angeles as well. If you can if you want to accept it and sell it, I'm gonna give it to you
Yeah.
because the more platforms, the better. And you have some people who they don't read comics, so sometimes if they hear an Amazon, they know Amazon. It's like, oh,
Mhm.
Amazon, yeah, yeah. I just bought my my dishwasher off Amazon. Yeah, I'll buy. They just like they feel like it's more legitimate or whatever.
Yeah.
Or if I
Yeah.
go, oh yeah, it's at this shop right now. They, it's like, oh yeah, I know that shop. Okay, maybe you are legit. Like it gives a little bit. It just gives you a little bit more gravitas. So I try to have it everywhere as possible. And my biggest thing was getting the graphic novel out because
Mhm.
Barnes and Noble doesn't sell individual
Right.
comics, but they'll sell the graphic novel. So, but I wanted to get out to get the graphic novel. I need to have at least 3 issues to get a decent graphic novel out.
Mhm.
So, um,
It's a great approach, by the way, just to keep people caught up. Because I'm sure at cons too, you know, once you hit that issue 3 mark, you're trying to find a way to be like, well, when issue 4 comes out and you don't have anything yet, like, do you have to buy all 3 issues? Or what if you're out of stock at a issue 2? You know what I mean?
mhm,
Stuff like that. But having that trade with the first 3, that's such a good, it's a smart move, because then you could catch everyone up and be like, okay, well, now 4, 5, and 6 are coming, and that could be a trade, or you could collect all 6 of them in a trade. And you're adding diversity in your stock to make it even more accessible. And I feel like accessibility is key with indie comics, and you're doing a phenomenal job at that.
thank you. I mean, if I could, I would have a newspaper, my own newspaper stand where you put in a quarter and pull out. And then if I could have one of those, I'd have a stack of Trifecta in the newspaper. Man, you got to get it out wherever you can put it. I say put your product.
Love it. Yeah.
So I'm gonna continue. If I see a platform where I could possibly make it available, my thing is the last thing I've learned from this is that it never hurts to ask. Only thing someone can say is, "No, man, I'm not interested." You
True.
never know. You walk into a store and be like, "Hey, can I do a signing here?" Or, "Hey, you think I can do a consignment here?" Or you'll be surprised how many people will go, "Yeah, why not? It's not gonna hurt me. Why not? Let's do it."
Yeah. You're boosting their business somehow too, you know?
Yeah, you gotta ask. So I would just that would be my key or my if I had to give one piece of advice to anyone who's just getting started or anyone who's been doing this for a while, ask. Ask whoever is in charge. You never know what they're gonna say to you. So
I love it. Dude, I mean, this has been a phenomenal conversation, from
yeah,
inspiration to taking action. I admire your hustle, your grind, and most of all, like, I really admire your attitude behind everything, because it's so positive and it's so driven. And I feel like that's what's going to carry on for you on success, and that's what's going to make you a great comic book creator. That's what makes you a great comic book creator, is just that positive attitude and being able to push forward no matter what. And it's something I feel like everyone needs to hear and see sometimes, because to me it's very encouraging, and it shows, like, you just got to show up, you just got to put your work in. And it does take time sometimes, but you know what, that being patient is worth it. It's better to take a little while than to be rushing out stuff and then never pay attention and never really get to let it sink in and admire all the hard work you've done. And I feel like you're on the right track and you're doing the right things in that move too. So as we sign off, like, why don't you tell us where we could find your work, and also if you have any conventions or anything else happening this year that you want to promote.
um, let's see. I got a lot. Issue 3. That's the main thing I want to promote. Issue 3, October. It's going to be available Amazon, Comics One, CWS Bookstore, Kindle. It's going to be on that the Kindle app, Barnes and Noble website. Um, Besides that, I'm going to do some signings. They're not scheduled yet, but I'm going to do some signings, hopefully at Barnes & Noble. And I still need to reach out to a couple local comic book stores, but I want to do some signings, especially around Christmas. And then besides that, I'm going to start looking at the cons for next year. I probably should have started doing that. I've been I slacked a little bit, but I'm gonna start signing up for my cons and doing everything, to get locked and loaded for next year. But I just want to keep the positive momentum going and do as many signings as I can, and just keep pushing. Just keep pushing.
Love it, dude. Love it so much. We'll make sure to tag CWS in any post you make, and we'll help promote it, help get the word out there for all your signings, for any book announcements, anything. And once we get, Trifecta number 4 out, we'll do another spotlight, or any other work you have coming out. We'll get you on another spotlight. Everyone who's watching this, I hope you got to check out Joe's spotlight. Such a great little short clip where he gets to talk about, you really see the passion behind Trifecta in that spotlight. So I love hearing it. Not that it wasn't spread out through this whole episode. It was phenomenal. But Joe, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure talking to you. And to all of our audience, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Inspired Ink. We have more episodes coming your way. And don't forget to check out Spilled Ink every Thursday night, where we do a live drawing. And check out all of our spotlights. They're going to be coming out like crazy. And we have so many great creators to talk to you and for you to learn about more indie comics. But as always, stay inspired, stay creative, and thanks for hanging. Thanks so much for tuning into this week's episode of Inspired Ink featuring Joe Ellis. If you're a comic creator ready to bring your vision to life, look no further than Comix Wellspring. We're not just printers, we're your partners in creativity. With our exceptional customer service, you'll never feel lost in the process either. And if you need your comics fast, our lightning quick turnaround times have got you covered. And for those big ideas, our industry-leading bulk pricing options make large print runs a breeze. Don't let your masterpiece gather dust on your hard drive. Click the link on the screen now, and let's turn your pages into reality.